Georgia versus Notre Dame, Sugar Bowl preview and prediction. We got a great new guest, Steve from the Four Horsemen podcast. He's coming on talk all things Notre Dame. How are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Trey. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've been watching a lot of their podcast content. They're growing a whole lot on Twitter. We give them a shout out at the end. They're on Instagram, all the platforms, but pleasure to have them on. So Notre Dame getting the big win last week, dominating win, even though I know it looked like it was 27-17 over Indiana at home, which I know that was great for your program. So what was your thoughts on the win, and just how are you feeling as a Notre Dame fan, finally getting that kind of big time playoff win?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction there. So, first and foremost, it feels good to get the monkey off the back, so to speak, in regards to Notre Dame finally winning a relatively big bowl game, and winning a playoff game. It's always good to have that on the resume. It's a cheapie, admittedly. We're kind of taking the win just to get the win against a team that we were, certainly better than, but you know what? We'll take it because now we can recruit on the fact that, we won a bowl game, won a playoff game, and hopefully we can start recruiting with the likes of you boys down in Athens.
Yeah, appreciate it. I thought it was a great win. If you look at it, everybody took business that was at home. Everybody covered, I believe. That was going to be my next question. What did you actually think about the first round games? A lot of people thought they were maybe all blowouts, kind of boring, but I felt like, everybody kind of took care of business. There wasn't any surprises. Everybody, all the home teams kind of did well. So what was your thoughts on the first round games?
Yeah, it's multi-factor. Listen, you're never going to hear me complain about having more football, especially more college football. So it's the sport that we all love and obsess about. So, Notre Dame, they took care of business. It was 4 quarters of FU football, just to keep that PG in the words of Pat Coogan. They went out and they just they had the mandate to go and run it down the other team's throat and do what they needed to do. And it was kind of reminiscent of kind of the strategy that we started the season in College Station. I don't know if I'm breaking any news here, but Riley Leonard isn't exactly Tom Brady, and he's not going to beat you through the air all game long, but there's certainly going to be pockets and moments in which he can. And he did everything necessary to win that game, but mostly it was the run game. It was in the trenches, which foreshadowed. That's going to be a lot of what we talk about today. Mm-hmm. In regards to a lot of the other games, SMU, they were knocking on the door. I think that it was they scored early. They had a chance at a second touchdown. They threw an interception. They threw a couple of pick sixes there. I think just a more mature quarterback, has SMU in that game, making it a heck of a lot closer. So now a lot of that is due to the atmosphere over in Happy Valley. So congratulations to those fans, even though it's a 12:00 noon game, which we. Over here at the Four Horsemen podcast, I can speak for my 2 other counterparts that I do the podcast with. We certainly hate the big noon game in the Big Ten. I think it's a joke. It's Mickey Mouse type of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that game, SMU Penn State was a bit closer than expected. I picked Clemson flat out to beat Texas, and there was moments there where it looked like a possibility, but Texas, the superior roster, they closed out the game, and good for them. The teams that should have won. The teams that were up against long shot odds didn't exactly come through. It's the first iteration. I think that maybe there can be a conversation about seeding and auto bids, but that's not a conversation that I get paid to have. It's because it's well above my pay grade.
Yeah, completely agree. I agree with a lot of that. Yeah, I will say I figured Penn State would take care of SMU. You can't turn the ball over, like you mentioned, like that. Too many turnovers. I knew you guys were going to pretty much take care of business. From the Georgia side, we were always planning like, hey, gotta start looking at film for Notre Dame. I know you still had to play the game. And then I did think Clemson, which they did hang around to the fourth quarter. I think they kind of ran out of gas on defense, got beat by 2 touchdowns, didn't cover, but I think it was 13.5 point spread. There's a reason why Vegas builds casinos, because I was telling everybody, like, hey, I'm not big on betting, but I'm like, man, 13.5 is a lot. Clemson's a scrappy team. The surprising one for me was the Ohio State beatdown of Tennessee. I mean, I came home here and picked. I had my buddy Tennessee Tony. You know, we pretty much tried to pick the SEC team, and I got buried and railed on Instagram for that. So Ohio State fans, I'm keeping receipts. I mean, y'all are coming in hard. I know we didn't get it right, but and then he actually went to the game, and let's just say he didn't have the nicest thing to say about Buckeye fans. They were doing all kind of things at him and taunting him. And anyway, I think they're really salty. What are they now? 3-13 against SEC teams playoff. So I think they're probably keeping those receipts. But anyway, I got my own, you Ohio State fans. I got something for you. Don't you lose to Oregon. But yeah, all in all, it was kind of it is what it is. And if you look back in the grand scheme of things at other playoff games previously, there have been a lot of blowouts. So I think it just all of them kind of happened in one, week one. So
yeah,
we'll see. And before we get into the preview of Georgia versus Notre Dame, I want to give a shout out to our great sponsor, VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. This will be great for New Year's coming up. It's always great for at the beach, around the golf, but 0 carbs, 0 sugar. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. My personal favorite is the Huckleberry. For 20% off is Doghouse20. Doghouse20 for 20% off. Check Viva Tequila Seltzer out on Instagram. Also, they have YouTube as well, growing channel. They've been a great sponsor on the show, so check them out again. That's Doghouse20, 20% off. And looking at Georgia versus Notre Dame, started out as if you follow spreads, I think it's 1.5 in favor of Notre Dame, but it looks like it jumped to I think it's Georgia by 2 now, which is interesting. But yeah, I want to get your early thoughts on the game. Also, I wanted to ask on the injury front, because I know you guys got a little banged up. How's that going to affect you guys? I believe it's one of your D linemen there.
Mm-hmm. It was Riley Mills. Yeah, he's I believe he's a 5th-year senior at the defensive tackle position. He's 6'5", I think over 290 pounds. He's a big body, big boy. Probably a day 2 or day 3 pick in the NFL. I don't think he's a first rounder, maybe not even a second rounder, but certainly going to add some depth, and he'll be an NFL project, but I think he'll be in the league for a while. Right. His leadership, there's been moments where he's taken some bad angles at times. There's been moments where he looked a little bit out of position in certain circumstances, but by and large, especially over the season and late into the season, he was getting phenomenal pressure on quarterbacks, plugging up holes, forcing running backs to the outside, where our secondary, Xavier Watts, All-American safety, or some of those linebackers could come downhill and really start forcing into second and long, third and long positions, forcing teams to throw, which against our secondary is our strength. So he was a tone setter, and it does stink to miss him. Now we do have. He's going to be replaced by a senior in the classroom, but a junior on the field in Gabriel Rubio, number 97 for Notre Dame. He's 6'5", 316 pounds. So he's a big boy, and he's going to fill the gap in terms of size. Now, in terms of skill, I don't think he matches up quite as well. Maybe hands wise, feet wise, that Riley Mills might have had. But he is a big body. He's got a high motor. So Gabe Rubio that's going to be one of the more interesting matchups, especially to my understanding. The interior of the Dogs' offensive line is world class here. So seeing who can really set the pace and control the trenches, I think is more likely than not going to determine this game.
Yeah, completely. I hate to hear that. I don't like to see injuries for any team. Georgia, will get into it. It's coming. Carson Beck, he's gone for the year with the UCL surgery they just had. But yeah, I like to see all teams completely, got their whole roster. But yeah, sorry to hear that. And then I think there was Rocco. How's he looking? Was he a starter, or was it O-lineman, or? Rocco
Spindler. Yeah, he's the right guard. He's still listed as the starter currently on the depth chart. He's 6'5", 325 pounds, and he's a junior on the football field. And, I think just he's actually a graduate student, but again, COVID and all the weird rules and whatnot. So he's got 1 year left of eligibility, Rocco Spindler. I would expect him to start. He is a little bit banged up. Having, 10 plus days of rest, I think is going to do him some good. Right. But in the event that he can't go, then, we have Sam Pendleton, who's 6'4", 310 pounds, who is a redshirt freshman. Sam Pendleton did get some playing time throughout the year this year, but more last year as well. So he's not totally inexperienced. He wouldn't be thrown to the wolves, so to speak. But again, there's always going to be an expected talent gap when you drop off from a starter to a backup. So would he be formidable, Sam Pendleton, if he has to have his number called? Yes. Would I like to see Sam Pendleton in this game? No.
Gotcha. And then looking at the matchup, so Riley Leonard, I think, is going to be key for you guys. It seems like I don't really call him game manager, and that's a little harsh, but looking at his numbers, maybe not the biggest threat through the air, but doesn't turn the ball over. Very mobile, which I noticed, 700-800 yards and 15 touchdowns rushing, which is impressive. So do you see in this matchup, I think this is going to come down to who's more physical in the trenches, who can run the ball more. I know you guys are run heavy. What are you guys expecting from this game? And maybe what's a advantage and a weakness going against Georgia, if you had to say?
Long passing, and that's gonna get the focus on third downs. So, right. And how you get to third downs is by stopping Notre Dame on first and second down when we try to run the ball. So it starts with trench warfare up front, the defensive line in Georgia. We know you guys got some hosses there that are going to be battling against the Notre Dame offensive line, which is historically in recent past been really, really good. So that's going to be great to see. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are two absolute ponies. They're our modern day Thunder and Lightning, as an ode to Reggie Bush and Lendale White from USC back in 2005. Jeremiah Love, he's a speedster, but he also gets a ton of yards after contact, breaks a lot of tackles, and a lot of the time it's just because you really can't get your hands on him. So it's, again, with a phenomenal Georgia defense, which we're expecting from their defensive line and basically their front seven with the linebackers. I'm counting on them to be really, really good tacklers. But can the Notre Dame offensive line and can our offensive coordinator, open up those run lanes and get him into space? Because as we saw with that 98-yard touchdown run against Indiana, if you take one bad angle against Jeremiah Love, he's gone. Now on the flip side, Jadarian Price, he had the big home run shot to open up the season against Texas A&M. So he's more of a Barry Sanders type back where his jump cuts are insane. He's also really hard to bring down because, again, it's really hard to just to get a handle on him. But if you guys can control the line of scrimmage on first and second down, that's going to force third and long, which is definitely not Riley Leonard's strong suit. If Riley Leonard is in 3rd and 3, Marcus Freeman has shown a penchant for being very aggressive as a coach, which, we in South Bend or friends of South Bend love. If it's 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, he has no qualms about going for it, especially if a bunch about our special teams and our kicking game this year. But yeah, if it's 3rd and 5 or more, and you're going to force Riley Leonard to make a play, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up against this Georgia defense. So I think that's really the key to the game. If Notre Dame can keep it 3rd and 4 and shorter, then Notre Dame's going to certainly have their chance. But if the Dogs defense pushes them back and they can be resilient, then, this might be like the last two matchups, unfortunately, for us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Riley Leonard versus, we'll get into Gunner Stockton here, but from we're at Georgia's standpoint, so we've been hit or miss on stopping the run. We've done well against Texas, but then, we've given up 200 yards against UMass. Jalen Milroy. Don't give me there, Bama fans. I had to answer for that one. He rushed for over 100. Jackson Dart over 50. The Georgia Tech game, Hayes King threw for over 300 and rushed for over 100 yards. We couldn't stop him, so there's that. But I do think you are giving Kirby Smart over 20-something days. He has a stat where he has over 7 or 8 days to prepare. He's done very well. We are getting healthier in the right spots. So there's that. So I think this is going to be a phone booth rock fight. And I think it's going to be – my question for you, and you guys have seemed to always kind of led in all your games. I know there's the Northern Illinois game. That's an enigma. But can your team maybe go blow for blow? Because this is a very resilient Georgia team. I mean, even if you guys went up 21-0, hold your breath, man, because they're coming no matter what. So that's what I wanted. The big question is, can you guys kind of go in a rock fight, go blow for blow, in a game when you're challenged? Because a lot of teams, like a Texas, hadn't really been pushed all year, and then Georgia punched them in the mouth. They kind of laid down. Georgia's been bloodied up, beat down, and they'll rise up like a zombie. So that's my big question for Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Well, the biggest game on the schedule this year was Texas A&M, and that was I think we might have been down at some points, but it was always a one-score game. So, like you mentioned, it's a rock fight. It's back and forth until so it was a one-score game until it was, and Notre Dame pulled away late. Mm-hmm. That's a great defensive line in College Station, and it's a great defense there. So it does, the fact that we put up 24 points on the road, hostile territory, first game of the year, and the Notre Dame offense has only gotten better since then, does give me some hope. But yeah, on the flip side of that, again, expecting Riley Leonard to go out and throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns. I don't care what the plus sign number of odds there is that Vegas is going to give you for a bet. Probably don't want to take that unless you want to just light your money on fire. So, if Riley Leonard can throw for 200 yards in this game and rush for another 50, then I'll tell you right now, it's probably coming down to the final possession. And it's probably going to be a one-score game. But if he can't get over 150 yards passing over, then, it's probably going to be dogs by 10 plus. So there are some great wide receivers at Notre Dame that really aren't as utilized as much. In particular, we have this kid who's a walk-on, Jordan Faison. He won a national championship with the lacrosse team. Was a walk-on last year as a true freshman, worked his way into the lineup, and he ended up winning the MVP of the Sun Bowl last year, which, it's the Sun Bowl against, Oregon State, I think, which again, doesn't really matter. But he's quick twitch. He's like 6'1", 2, like 180, great slot receiver, but he can also get open downfield because he has a great ability to cut. Ever since he missed the very talked about NIU game, which I think was one of the reasons for the struggle with the Notre Dame passing attack in that game. We became ultimately a little bit one-dimensional. We also have the senior transfer wide receiver who is our big body, go get the ball type of guy on the outside, and Bo Collins. Now, Bo Collins is 6 foot. Let me get that exact number. Yeah, he's 6'3", 200 pounds. So, he's going to be your contested ball guy. He's going to try to test those sidelines all night long. I don't think that he's going to be going 30 or 40 yards downfield, but 10, 15, 20 yard hitches and outs. I think that's real where Bo has the opportunity to eat. But yet again, now you have SEC closing speed at corner and safety, so that does add certainly a wrinkle to it. So, if Notre Dame is down 20-10, and late in the third quarter, do I have the confidence that they can come back? Possibly, but it's certainly a tall task, especially if they're getting swallowed up at the line of scrimmage in the run game and they are forced to the air. So that's where Dogs fans can really put their focus on in terms of cheering. And, I guarantee you Kirby's getting ready for it. And Notre Dame on their side of the ball, the talent is there. It's just, is the execution going to happen when the time comes?
All right. Yeah, I completely agree. And Georgia fans we are respecting this game. We're not thinking we're going to roll over on you guys because you guys defense travels. Marcus Freeman is a defense-minded coach, and then you guys having a mobile quarterback can always give Kirby Smart defenses a fit. So that's what we're looking at. So what I wanted to look at, because there's not a lot of film on him. So, of course, everybody knows that Gunnar Stockton came in for the injured Carson Beck. You know, I believe he's been there his third year. He's played in some mop-up duty, but what all the Georgia fans are excited about, they kind of rallied around him in that Texas game. A lot of people got excited. He's more mobile, which I think a lot of Georgia fans, similar to like Stetson Bennett, so that brings that weapon in. And a lot of people are excited, but this is a big stage for, you know, pretty much he was a backup for a reason. I'm cautiously optimistic. I do like it that he's mobile, but I want to see what kind of like game plan that Mike Bobo, the OC, is going to bring. Is it going to be a lot of run-heavy design runs, or is it going to be a big old bowl of vanilla? And, you know, we're going to try to run the ball, establish the run. He's going to take a shot every now and then. We're going to try to play defense. So it's interesting. Or do you cut him loose, you know, and take the training wheels off? So that's what we're wondering as Georgia fans. But all the stuff I've been reading about him, great teammate. Everybody thinks a lot of him. Read an article today. He drives like a 1984 Ford F-150, you know, and you got Carson Beck rolling in with the Lambo. They say how humble he is. He likes to go hunting. So, you know, just from his like culture makeup, he looks like a great fit. But, you know, we'll see. You know, he does like to run the ball. He does run reckless, which kind of scares me because, you know, hey, take a shot, and we might be looking at a third string quarterback here, which I believe is going to be Puglisi. So we're excited about it, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of, you know, offensive game plan Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart have for Gunnar Stockton. So
certainly, yeah, and Al Golden company are going to have their hands full because he was a pretty highly touted, pretty solidified high 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and you know, obviously he's sitting behind Carson Beck, he's you know, big man on campus, or was until the injury. So you know, we are Gunnar Stockton respecters. We're not going to overlook the fact that he's a backup. The fact that he's a backup at Georgia means he's a starter at 90% of the teams in the country, right? So you know, basically, if you're Notre Dame's defense, again, if you're defensive coordinator Al Golden, you're preparing for this game as if he is the starter all along, and now he's added that mobile element. Now, a matchup that I would love to see is, you know, if he does decide to scramble, you know, how is Xavier Watts, again, All-American safety, coming down? He loves playing downhill, and he's a turnover machine. You know, in particular, I think David Shaw, the quarterback for Louisville, had like a 30, 40, 50-yard run when they needed a spark on offense. You know, it was just an option keeper that he got on the outside and was able to beat the Irish defense. But lo and behold, here comes our All-American safety, and after chasing him down for 40 yards from behind, you know, punches that ball out. Irish recover, and you know, we go on to win that game against a pretty solid Louisville team by a touchdown. So, you know, I have pretty solid confidence in our linebackers that, you know, they're going to be able to run blitz all night and hopefully try to hold up Etienne in your run game. But you know, with the mobile quarterback, it's more likely than not going to be safeties and corners having to step up and make those plays if he's able to, you know, kind of get into open space. So very intriguing matchup, but you know, in Xavier Watts, we trust here in South Bend.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've heard great things about him. Him being All-America is impressive. He'll probably be a day one guy, I'm sure, when he goes. Or top.
I certainly hope so. I'm a
corner.
Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and if the Steelers draft Xavier Watts, I'd love it. But you never know how those grades, you know, kind of go from the college game to the NFL. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a second or third round pick. But you know, if he's a first round pick, again, one more selling point on the recruiting trail. We'd love it.
Oh yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of heavy tight ends. You're going to see multiple tight end sets, you know, with having Gunnar Stockton in there too. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. That also, Steve, so give us your score prediction for the game, if you don't mind. Georgia -2 currently on the spread.
Now, at the beginning of the season, I said that the Notre Dame defense was so phenomenal that any game in which they allowed 20 points or less, they are going to win. We're going to take those pesky Huskies from Northern Illinois off the table when we go with this analysis. So, you know, please save it. You know, I get it.
Sure.
But if I were to take a guess, because I am a homer and, you know, I got to stay true to my guys, I'm going to go with a 23-17 victory for the Irish.
Okay, I like it. I can definitely see that. Yeah, on my end, I'm gonna go ahead and make my pick. So I think it's going to come down to it is a great Notre Dame team. Can't go against that. But I like Kirby Smart with his experience. Not sure if Marcus Freeman is ready for that. A little bit of a SEC homer here. I think we might have a little bit more talent with you guys. Also, it could be the coaching staff. I do like Al Golden. I think he's a great DC. But I think it's going to be Gunnar Stockton's going to do just enough. We're going to be healthy. Getting the 20-something days off and the grind that we had against that brutal schedule is going to really help. I know we have our starting punter, Brett Thorson, which I know doesn't make headlines, but we lost him. But I'm going to go 24-21. Georgia barely covers in the Sugar Bowl, and then that'll make our 4-0 against you guys all time, which I wanted to kind of bring that up just because it's been so close. And that was our first national title with Herschel Walker, which I think they ran him to death that game. I think our Buck Bellew was like 1 for 12 in that game. So basically it was a Herschel Walker run the ball every play game. But anyway, I'm good 24-21. And then I assume we would get Penn State. So, but it should be a great game in New Orleans, Sugar Bowl, 8:45. Everybody get out there, liquor, drink, and stay up. It's going to be a long night.
Absolutely. Yeah. In my heart, I feel that Georgia's, they're definitely favored. I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia wins this game by 10 or 14. But if Notre Dame can just keep those third downs manageable, then I think it's going to be a 1-score game in either direction. So, those are the matchups to look for. So I'll say go Irish. Obviously I'm biased, but,
sure.
But we are certainly Georgia respecters here. And even in, what was the games in 17 and 19?
Yeah. Very close games.
Yeah. And we didn't exactly have the roster then that we have now. So, I think this is a year in which Notre Dame is best poised to take out an SEC giant. Again, we have a tremendous amount of respect for Georgia. So, we consider you guys kind of the cream of the crop of college football. The last 4 years, I think you guys have had the best roster in college. So, we'll see what happens. But I think we're in for a great one. Hopefully this is going to be one of those matchups where, it makes up for some of those big blowouts in the first round.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's going to be a very competitive game. A lot of people are interested in it. And then one last question for you, Steve. I always like to ask, just because I haven't talked to a Notre Dame fan in a while. So was Rudy offsides, in your opinion, in the classic 1993 movie?
Now, so aren't you guys rivals with Georgia Tech, right? Don't you want Rudy to be onside? Don't you want us to kick Georgia Tech's ass for you? Sorry for the language there, but
no problem.
Of course, Rudy was onside.
Okay, there it is. Great movie, by the way. I enjoyed that movie. I've seen it multiple times. But sorry, go ahead.
Rudy would have started at Indiana, by the way, just as a heads up.
Okay, awesome. Had to ask that.
Of course, and the question also that you didn't ask, but I'll get out ahead of it. Where's my Notre Dame degree? Of course, I don't have it. Like many fans, I didn't actually go to Notre Dame. Just I'm a Catholic that grew up in New England, so I got a hand-me-down jersey when I was 10 years old, and I haven't missed a game ever since. And that's where my Irish fandom comes from.
Hey, same here, man. I went to Georgia Southern. I did not go to Georgia, so I'm one of those as well. So we got that in common.
Love it.
And then Steve wanted to see, how do we follow all of the Four Horsemen podcast on social media and find their content?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. So we've been growing on Twitter/X. It's kind of been our main method of communication with fans, and it's at Horseman Pod. We're also on Instagram with the same tag. We don't post on Instagram as much, but hey, if you guys start liking all our posts, then maybe we'll start getting into it. So, but yeah, tweet at us, talk some smack, but keep it respectful, because again, we are Georgia respecters. But yeah, we love engaging with all the fans. We try to post some pretty obvious homer and propaganda content. So excuse us while we do so. But anyone that wants to throw us a follow, we certainly appreciate it.
Also, yeah, follow the content. Getting over 8,500 on Twitter is impressive. Also, looks like they are on YouTube as well, building that content up. So that's impressive. Follow them on there.
Thanks
And
so
then
much.
I appreciate you coming on again, Steve. And it was a pleasure. And I hope it's a competitive game on January 1st.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And if everybody's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, share the Doghouse podcast, and we'll have more content coming up.
All right. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, man. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Really appreciate that. And I'll might try to have it out later today or the weekend. I was trying to get something in for the game.
Awesome. Works for me. Well, if you need anything, I mean, obviously we're going to pump everything out as much as we can.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Now because I own some other businesses that I'm trying to get up and running. So I'm just now getting into the content game with everything. Sure. Have you heard of Opus Clip? Do you use that at all?
Opus Clip. I think I might have saw like something on YouTube about it, but
yeah.
Just briefly go.
So I attended a seminar about it, and basically if you upload your YouTube video to Opus Clip, it's going to use AI in order to splice up, 20, 30, 40 different, 90-second clips, so to speak, that you can then start, just pasting all over social media and everything. So you can go with like Instagram reels or Twitter videos or whatever that may be. So, yeah, I don't pay for it. I don't use it. I'm not an ambassador for them. I just heard about it the other day and I just attended a webinar. So, maybe just something to check out because obviously I want you guys to grow as much as you can. So if that makes your life any easier, then hopefully it helps.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I'm gonna write that down real quick.
All good. Yeah. OPUS.
Opus. Okay.
All right, man. Well,
yeah, appreciate it. And I'll send that all that stuff over to you, and you guys can share it if that helps. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Take care, Trey.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Bye.